There are 51 mitzvahs in Parshas Kedoshim, which was our second Parsha, Shabbos morning. "51", that's a pretty hefty percentage of the mitzvahs. One mitzvah that many of us would know the exact language that's used in the Torah is the Ahavta l'reacha kamocha. 3 words in Hebrew, 5 words in the standard English translation of love thy neighbor, or acquaintance might even be more accurate. Love thy acquaintance as thyself. The story is told that a Rebbe known to be very righteous, Rav Shlomka of Zavzil, turned to his Meshamish, his assistant, Reb Eliyahu, and he said to him, he asked him a question. It really was rhetorical in terms of Rabbi Eliyahu's role. He understood that. But he said, you know, Rabbi Akiva teaches the Ahavta l'reacha kamocha ze klal gadol b'Torah. The dictum in the Torah, the commandment to love thy neighbor as thyself, is a big rule in the Torah. Some of us know that song, or listen to our grandchildren or other relatives sing the song. So Reb Shlomka asks, if there is a big rule in the Torah, so big is a word of comparison, so if there's a big rule in the Torah, what's the little rule of the Torah when it comes to the Ahavta l'reacha kamocha? And he tells over the story in the Gemara, in Gemara Shabbos, one of the famous stories singing the praises of Hillel, of how a potential convert first approached Shammai, asking if Shammai could teach him the entire Torah while he stands al regel achat, on 1 foot. And Shammai dismissed him. Nonsense to be thinking of something like that. And then that same potential convert came in front of Hillel and said, please convert me on the with the understanding that you're going to teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on 1 foot. Now, whether he actually stood on 1 foot or not, the intention was, I would like a crash course. And Hillel says to him, he agrees. And he says to him, Da'alach sinei lechavrach lo ta'aveh. What is distasteful to you, do not do to another. So Rav Shlomka says to his Shamash Rabbi Eliezer, that is the klal katan. That's the small rule of love thy acquaintance as thyself. And he gives an example to explain what he's saying. I'm going to give you the example as in the story itself. I could change it to be more timely, but I'll give you the story the way it was. He says to Rabbi Eliyahu, imagine that a merchant of Esrogim had a stupendous season this year. And he sold more Esrogims than ever before. So the small rule is not to belittle his success. Sometimes we hear about other people's good fortune and we minimize it. We dismiss it, we ignore it, we give a rationalization as why it happened now, but in general it wouldn't happen, or why it happened to him now. But whatever it might be. And this is called sarut ayin, a narrow eye, literally, as to that person's success. Whereas the klal gadol, the higher level, would to experience simcha, happiness for the good fortune of somebody else, whether it's business, in health, in nachas, in profession, whatever it might be, to feel happy as if it maybe happened to me, that I could feel as happy for somebody else's success. This sarut, the tsoros ayin, like the word like min ha-meitza karatika, and I called out to Hashem in the narrowness and tight spot and difficult. This narrowness of vision, this being miserly in our vision, is actually one of the al-chaitz. When we say vidui, Erev Yom Kippur, on Yom Kippur multiple times, when we say vidui, we clap al-chait. One of the al-chaitz is al-sarut ayin, for having this miserly view of other people's well-being, success, and happiness. And this expression of using the eye, it's interesting to me why the eye comes into this formula of language. But we know it from the Mishnah in Truma. The Torah commands those living in the land of Israel to give Truma, to give a gift to the Kohen, but the Torah does not define how much is considered a gift. And it turns out if you give the smallest amount, you would be fulfilling the Torah obligation. But the Mishnah does give a guideline. And the Mishnah says that one who gives 1/40, 2.5% of his produce, that is a person with an ayin yafa, a nice eye, means a generous eye. And one who is Beinoni, in between, gives 1 out of 50. And one who has an ayin ra'ah gives 1 out of 40. He's giving, and he's giving more than the minimum, but he's giving in a more miserly fashion. He gives with an ayin hara. In Yiddish, we say it was an ayin hara. It's always the Hebrew with a different accent. And in truth, unless somebody is a great prophet and prophetess like Sarah, in general, when we talk about an ayin hara, it really refers to the psychological impact and damage that somebody's miserliness in terms of another person's success can generate to that person. That's why the Gemara has an episode. It says, don't stand at the side of a field where your neighbor is checking out his crops, that he shouldn't feel that there's an ayin hara, that somebody is thinking in a miserly fashion. Is how Rav Aaron Soloveitchik understands that Gemara of what our attitude is really to others. And we could see something in one measure and sometimes in a totally different measure. It reminds me of the command in Sefer Devarim, which Moshe gives to the nation, of how we must listen to the rulings of the Torah authorities. And lo tasur, the Chumash tells us that we shall not deviate at all from what they tell us, not to deviate yamin usmal, right or left. If I'm giving somebody directions to come to visit me, and I tell them, as you're traveling on Lyons Road, you'll see Century Village on the right. Is that true? It's only true if you're coming from Glades. But if you're coming from Yamato and turn onto Lyons, Century Village will be on the left. So very often, right and left can be a matter of perspective in which we bow to the Torah authorities. when it comes to that perspective. And it's so true in so many things of life, in life, that we can see them in a generous fashion, a beneficial fashion, or a more miserly fashion. So let's do ourselves all a favor and make this a week, and then the head of just many weeks of always looking for the good, for the tovah in life, for the blessings that we have, for the blessings that others have. Let's use our ayin tovah to see all the wonderful things that exist.